I got one. Um, this is mostly stuff that's already merged, but it's not hooked up. So this is kind of the demo of it being hooked up with the one crucial piece. So this is the concept of access grants in topics. So we've got this access grants thing, the top level of the model. For some of us, this may look familiar. It just says, so I have an access grant called foo. My user attribute, some user attribute called region needs to be set to California in order for me to have access to this grant. And then I have this topic users that requires the access grant foo for me to see it. Same thing, different, very exciting topic users two that requires the attribute, the access filter, access grant foo two. So then if I go over and I look at workbook, I see that I can't see users two. But if I go and I add this as an allowed value, you can see it. All right, that's the whole demo. The interesting thing for engineers is the way this is working currently, because I didn't want to have the Remix server box up all the user attributes and send them over the wire every time we want to ask for a model of any kind, because we do that a lot and it's a GET request, so you wouldn't want to stick in the whole URL. This is actually and this is the first thing that's done like this. The Kotlin service is reaching back out to the Node server via the internal API, which someone already built for this scheduler. Maybe Corey. Thanks, Corey. Anyway, it works great. I actually don't know that it works in production or not. I think I copy pasted the pattern right. So we'll test. We'll put it into production before releasing it. Make sure it checks out and everything. But I think it should just work. And it just means that kind of the life cycle is right. We don't have to implement user attribute handling in two places. And
Do we think that the pattern that'll always be the pattern, like API? Because we could also just have the Kotlin service reach into the database also. Do you think we're going to do API based? Which I'm not opposed to. I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, I mean there was some discussion on Slack about whether that was whether we should do that or have it reach to the database. I've literally gone back and forth, but then I tried this and it was pretty easy. So I was like, hey. It's possible that someday, if we want to get very fancy and be able to draw one of those diagrams with like the 8 boxes of services, then there will be this just service that sits there and everybody asks it for stuff about user attributes. But for now, the reason I shied away from the database thing is that then the logic to kind of get the bundle of user attributes from the database is, I mean, it's not crazy, but it's not totally trivial. So then you'd have to have kind of two
duplicated,
So,
I will put my foot down and say early, I would really like us to not let anything touch the other things database directly, because it's just that is how we get ourselves in trouble. I don't want to build thousands of microservices, but I really like the idea of facades that each service controls its underlying database and does not expose it directly. Just because it leaves us the ability to decide user attributes change how they work, and we change it in one place, and the backend services, other services don't care. There's a shrug.
What does the API look like here too? Is it like a user ID or something that we're requesting the attributes for, or something like that?
Yeah, like whatever attributes, org ID, user ID, and you don't. It's unauthenticated. I had a bunch of FUD about how am I going to do this authentication thing? And then I tried it the first time and it worked. I was like, oh, it's internal in the cluster. It is not authenticated. So it works great.
What's the experience for loading a link to want to query in a topic that you don't have access to?
Good question. Let's see. I can do this without my screen sharing in case it's really bad, and then I'll show you. Yeah, I mean it's Well, okay, so there's what I see here, but this is not really very realistic because realistically, you would only do this for topic only users.
Yep.
What happened is I'm actually surprised it was smart enough to do this. It booted me out of the topic, put me in all views and fields because I'm
Okay,
kind
that's
of
actually what I would expect. Like that seems
Yeah.
odd, it's because you have SQL access here.
yeah, I have SQL all views and fields access, so it booted me out and it says I can't.
And for a non-topic, for a viewer, it probably is just going to have an error. Like,
Yeah,
would you
probably
load a
just an
workbook
error
page?
won't even show this. I think it'll load the page. Although I'm not
Would it
sure.
load it to all? But that user doesn't have access to all views and fields, or
Yeah,
do that?
you're right. That's definitely worth checking.
Let's just chase that down. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that it is at least
I
not a
think
404.
No, it
Or
should.
maybe we want a 404. I don't know. I just want it to
No,
be what we want it to be.
It's a good question about what we show on the field picker. I would expect you get an error at the top, like when you are a topic viewer and you can't access all views and fields. We give you an error saying you don't have access to that. We probably want something similar. We have to figure out what to show, and then on the dashboard,
Yeah.
same type
Like,
of
what do
thing.
we do if you open a workbook to a connection you don't have access to right now? I will definitely edit this section out.
How does our product work? No, I don't. That's a good.
I actually have no idea.
No,
Test it later
I think a connection you don't have access to, it's going to be a hard 404.
on the workbook page.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to check, but I think it's this for a topic only user for a topic you can't see. That I don't know. I'll find out.